Look, I've been analyzing economic policy for over 2 decades now, and I have to tell you, what we're witnessing right now is genuinely unprecedented. Not in the hyperbolic cable news sense of the word, but in the actual measurable, data driven sense.
The economic picture for the US is not good. I came upon this video today of Dr. Paul Krugman. He's been a economist for the New York Times. I don't think he works there anymore, but he's been studying the economy for decades and he's well respected. But this video is pretty eye-opening. I mean, I think most people can see what the economy is doing right now. Just when you go buy milk or beef or eggs, you could see, even gasoline isn't down that much. I mean, it may be down a tiny bit. I'm not sure. It fluctuates from state to state. It's always expensive in Colorado and California. Krugman even admits here that if you take out, the economy is not doing terrible. If you take out, the economy is not doing terrible if you subtract food, and the economy is not doing terrible if you subtract food and I think electricity or something like that. He'll explain it in a minute. I'll let him explain it. It's, he's obviously better at it than me. But anyway, if you like what we're doing here at The Spin Cycle, go ahead and subscribe, like, share this video, sign up for a membership if you want to help out the channel.
Decades now. And I have to tell you, what we're witnessing right now is genuinely unprecedented. Not in the hyperbolic cable news sense of the word, but in the actual measurable, data driven sense. The convergence of political, economic, and institutional crises facing this administration is something I don't think most Americans fully appreciate yet. So let me walk you through exactly what's happening, why it matters, and what the data is actually telling us. Because the numbers here, they're striking. Let's start with where we always should in economic analysis: consumer sentiment and real household impact. The Tax Foundation, and this is not a left-leaning organization, this is a center-right think tank that has historically been favorable to Republican tax policy, has calculated that Trump's tariffs amount to an average tax increase of $1,200 per American household in 2025. $1,200. And that number rises to $1,600 in 2026. Now, I want you to think about that for a moment. During the campaign, we heard endlessly about how tariffs would make America wealthy, how other countries would pay these taxes. But here's what every economist knows, and what the data now confirms. Tariffs are paid by American importers who pass those costs to American consumers. This isn't theory anymore. We're watching it happen in real time. The Tax Foundation describes these tariffs as the largest tax hike since 1993, larger than any tax increase under Obama, larger than the tax increases under George H.W. Bush. And critically, this is a tax increase that falls disproportionately on lower.
Did you catch that, guys? The tariffs are the biggest tax increase on American citizens since 1993. Bigger than the last 3 presidents, including Trump, to be fair, as far as tax increases go. Okay, let's keep watching and see what Krugman has to say here.
And middle income households, because they spend a higher percentage of their income on goods. Now, the administration's argument has been that tariff revenue will offset tax cuts, that it's a net positive for the Treasury. But here's where the math completely falls apart, and I want to be very precise about this. The Congressional Budget Office just released updated projections showing that recent rollbacks of Trump's tariff strategy have wiped out roughly $800 billion, with a B, in expected deficit reduction over the next decade. $800 billion gone, because the administration has been forced to retreat on tariff after tariff as the economic and political pain became too severe. We saw this pattern repeatedly. Announce aggressive tariffs, watch markets wobble, watch prices spike, watch political pressure build, then quietly roll them back or grant exemptions. The result is the worst of both worlds. Enough tariffs to raise prices and create uncertainty, but not enough sustained revenue to achieve the stated fiscal goals. And speaking of prices, let me address directly what the administration has been saying about inflation, because the president has repeatedly claimed that grocery prices are way down. He said this multiple times. It is empirically demonstrably false. Bureau of Labor Statistics data, this is official government data, shows that grocery prices rose 1.4% between January and September of this year. Year over year, they're up 2.7%. The 0.6% monthly increase we saw from July to August was the largest monthly spike in grocery prices in 3 years. Ground beef that cost $5.55 per pound in January now costs $6.32. Coffee has gone from $7 to nearly $9 per pound, partly due to tariffs. These aren't abstractions. These are prices that real families pay at real grocery stores every single week. And yet the president stands before cameras and says prices are way down.
And here's the thing about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not a real person. He was born a multimillionaire. He's probably never gone grocery shopping in his whole life. You know how he says, groceries, it's an old school word, or whatever it is. Groceries, it's an old word, but it's still relevant, or whatever he says about groceries. It makes no sense because he probably hardly ever used the word groceries in his whole life. He has his servants. How many of you out there have servants? He has his servants go shopping for him. He doesn't know anything costs. He thinks you have to show an ID when you go to the grocery store. He's so out of touch. And I mean, the fact is he just doesn't care how much you have to pay for coffee or how much you have to pay. Because to him, those things are irrelevant. You know, he's living on a different plane. I mean, he's just, you know, money to him is just something that he accumulates power with, you know. And, you know, it's a dick measuring contest. Who has the most billions of dollars with all his billionaire friends?
This isn't spin. This isn't messaging. This is a fundamental disconnection from economic reality that has profound political consequences, which I'll get to shortly. Now, to be fair to the administration, and I always try to be analytically even-handed, core inflation has been relatively contained. If you strip out food and energy, the inflation rate has actually declined modestly under this administration from about 3.3% to 3.0%. Wages have also been outpacing inflation, which is genuinely positive. But here's the thing about economic perception. People don't experience core inflation excluding food and energy. They experience the price of milk. They experience the price of gas. They experience their electricity bill, which, by the way, is up 6.2% year over year. And this is where we see the political consequences manifesting in hard data. A Fox News poll, again, not a left-leaning outlet, found that 76% of Americans now rate the economy negatively under Trump. 76%. That's worse than the 70% who rated the economy negatively at the end of the Biden administration. Think about the significance of that finding. Trump won the 2024 election in large part because voters trusted him more on the economy. He made the economy his calling card. And now, less than a year into his term, his economic approval numbers are worse than Biden's were. By a 2-to-1 margin, voters blame Trump rather than Biden for current economic conditions. 62% to 32%. Even among Republicans, only 53% blame Biden. That's a massive erosion of what was supposed to be his greatest political strength. The Gallup organization just released comprehensive approval data, and it confirms this picture. Trump's overall job approval has fallen to 36%, the lowest of his second term. Disapproval is at 60%.
The numbers are terrible for Trump, for sure. The generic ballot is the Democrats are ahead by 13 points, and historically, 13 points, that amount of points, the last time I think they're that far ahead was in 2018, and they picked up 40 seats in Congress. So if it stays like that, and you know the data is starting to harden now, in other words, it gets harder and harder. The closer we get to the November 2026, it gets harder and harder for the Republicans and Trump to turn things around. So if they pick up 40 seats in the House and maybe even win the Senate, then Trump's term is effectively over because he won't have any effect on anything except for by executive order, and his executive orders won't be as effective if he doesn't control Congress. So I'm going to skip ahead in the video here, and I just want to get into the crypto. I just want to get into the cryptocurrency corruption that is currently going on in the House, and the Republicans in Congress are ignoring it. The judicial is basically ignoring it because it would have to be most likely the Supreme Court to check Trump on it. But Congress is the real check on this, and they are just, they should be investigating this. Paul Krugman here is going to talk about it.
The cryptocurrency situation and its implications for governance and corruption. A House Judiciary Committee staff report released just days ago documents that the president and his family have generated over $800 million in income from cryptocurrency ventures in just the first half of 2025. Their total crypto holdings are estimated at $11.6 billion, representing roughly 73% of the president's net worth. From a pure economic governance perspective, this creates unprecedented conflicts of interest. The administration has simultaneously dismantled crypto regulatory enforcement, terminated investigations into major crypto firms, and granted regulatory rollbacks, while the president's family profits directly from that same industry. The report documents that the administration halted or terminated federal investigations into Coinbase, Gemini, Robinhood, Ripple, Crypto.com, Uniswap, and Kraken, all firms that had either invested in Trump family crypto ventures or made political donations. This isn't about partisan politics. This is about basic governance integrity. When the people making regulatory decisions are the same people profiting from regulatory rollbacks, markets cannot function efficiently because participants cannot trust that rules are being applied fairly. And the political fallout from the Epstein files situation illustrates how these governance questions create real political fractures. What started as a campaign promise to release Jeffrey Epstein's investigative files became a major test of this administration when the Justice Department tried to suppress those files. This created an extraordinary situation where Republican members of Congress, including staunch Trump allies.
So to fully understand this crypto corruption, you have to understand that they deregulated a lot of the crypto. So these companies in Saudi Arabia and foreign countries can buy Trump's family crypto without anybody knowing about it. But they let Trump know, hey, we bought $1 billion in your crypto. Can you bomb this country for us or whatever? So that's the level of corruption, and you heard it, 87% of Trump's wealth has come from crypto in the last year. And he's going to get to keep all that when he gets out of Congress. So I know a lot of people, a lot of MAGA, they're okay with Trump grifting. They're like, well, everybody does it. But the level here is off the charts. And are you okay with him compromising our country's national security and taking bribes from other countries, and not to mention taking bribes from, tech companies and all this stuff with their AI, and just to, send our economy into a free fall? Anyway, that's all I got today, guys. Go ahead and subscribe, like, share, sign up for a membership if you want to help us out, and we'll see you next time on The Spin Cycle.